I just went through the worst experience of my real estate career, and I've been a realtor for 20 years. It felt like blackmail. I'm not saying it was blackmail, but it really felt like blackmail. So I'm gonna tell you what happened, and I wanna know what you think. There are always two sides to every story, and honestly, I can see the other side to one part of what happened because there's two parts, but I wanna know what you guys think after I finish telling you everything. But one thing that I learned, because I was a listing agent on this transaction, is that I will never, ever let buyers back into the house after we're under contract unless it's contractually agreed upon. At least that's the advice I'm gonna tell my sellers, because ultimately it's their decision. So, like I said, I'm gonna tell you everything, and afterwards, you tell me what you think. Let's dive right in. All right, like I said, this was my listing, and it started off like a normal transaction. This was an older house, about 50 years old, and an estate. And it's important that you know that, first of all, that it's an older house, but here in the state of Maryland, if it's an estate, the seller doesn't have to disclose or disclaim unless they or the realtor know about any latent defects. In this case, neither the seller nor myself knew of any latent defects. It was simply an older house that was being sold as is. The contract had all the contingencies: inspection, appraisal, loan. The buyer did a 3 to 4 hour inspection with a licensed inspector and their realtor, and had the right to cancel if they chose to. After the inspection, the buyer's agent called me and said all was good. The buyer was moving forward with the sale. Then we had the appraisal. The house appraised for the purchase price, so onward we went. The only thing that is left at this point is for the buyers to work with their lender and get us to settlement. Now, like I said, this is an older house and definitely needs some cosmetic updating. So the buyers told their agent that they wanted to replace all the carpet in the house and asked if they could come in before settlement and bring their contractors to measure for the carpet and possibly look at some other things they wanted to upgrade. Simultaneously, the title company is doing their job, which entails doing a title search and some other stuff, as well as providing a survey which shows the property lines. Here's where it gets sticky, and I want to be clear, there are two issues. So we're going to deal with the first one first. The seller graciously allowed the buyers to come into the house several times to measure for the carpets, as well as to bring their contractors. Just to give you context, this is about 1 week before settlement. After the buyers left the second time, the buyer's agent called me and told me that they noticed there was a leak in the sink of the basement bathroom. Now I want to be really clear. I've never thought, nor do I think now, that she was calling me to cause any type of problems, any trouble. They noticed a leak. She wanted to tell me so it didn't get any worse. And I quickly told her, if there is a leak, it will be repaired, no problem. Because the house needs to be in substantially the same condition as it was the day of the inspection at settlement. So if there was no leak the day of the inspection, there can't be a leak at the day of settlement. So of course we were gonna fix it. So we had a contractor come in and fix the leak. As it turned out, it was just a loose pipe under the sink that needed to be tightened. So it really was no big deal, but it was all fixed and everything was fine. I know, you're probably like, get on with it, we got it. What happened? Okay, so here we go. Now remember, there are two issues. So I'm gonna jump to the second, and then we're gonna circle back to the first. The second issue had to do with the survey, or the land drawing. The land drawing clearly showed that the fence, this house had a fence all around the backyard, and behind this house was county parkland. So there's a little creek back there and just parkland. You couldn't build back there was no house back there, it was just parkland. But the land drawing showed that the fence was clearly on part of the county property. Now I can understand this being upsetting to the buyers, because even though the plat that we gave them at the time of contract was correct, and the lot size that they had was also correct, when you see a fence, you assume the property inside the fence is yours. And if you find out that part of it actually belongs to the county, that can be upsetting. And so I really did understand why the buyers were upset, as did my seller. So let's go back to the first issue. Besides that minor leak, the house was in exactly the same condition as it was during the inspection. Remember, this is an older house with older carpets. One of the reasons why the buyers wanted to replace all the carpets. As it turns out, one time when they were in there, whether they were measuring or when they brought their contractors, somehow they looked under one of the carpets in the basement, and as a result of that and a result of the leak, the buyers then asked for the seller to give them $20,000 to move the fence for the property and a mold test because they looked under the carpet and thought they saw something there, and remediate all the mold. And this is now 3 3 days before settlement. So let's be clear, there is nothing in the contract that allows for further inspections after their original home inspection. In fact, the only thing that's in the contract that has been contractually agreed upon as far as access is a walkthrough before settlement. And that can take place up to 5 days before settlement, and it's simply to either check repairs, which in this case there weren't any, this was just a yes or no inspection, or to just make sure the house is in substantially the same condition as it was during the inspection. So once again, I totally understand about the leak. We'd already fixed it. That was not a problem. About the survey, and this is a totally separate issue, we definitely had empathy towards the buyers because you would think whatever land is inside that fence would be yours, and when you find that it's not completely yours, it's upsetting. The seller understood that as well, even though as far as he knew, that fence had been there for 50 years, or at least a fence had been there for 50 years. But that's besides the point. We understood that. But to come up with $20,000 and further inspections 3 days before settlement, it just felt really aggressive and really unfair. But like I said, there are two sides to this story, so I do want to know what you think, how you would have felt both as a buyer and as the seller. And then I'm going to tell you what we did. So here's what happened. The buyers actually got attorneys involved, and once attorneys are involved, it's never good, especially when you're this close to closing and it was an estate the seller wanted to be done. They asked for $20,000. They delineated into $13,000 was for the fence issue, and then the other $7,000 was for the mold, plumbing, whatever else they wanted issue. Actually, they even had, I think, their lawyer's fees as part of the $7,000. So my seller was exasperated. He was really upset, but really a good person, and really just wanted everything to be okay, wanted the buyers to be happy, wanted this to end. And he said, here's what I'll do. I will give them the $13,000, but the rest I'm not gonna do because there's nothing in the contract that says that they are supposed to do further inspections. Remember, that leak had been fixed, so that was a non-issue. So, as we do as realtors, we like to make things happen. I kicked in money as a listing agent, the buyer's agent kicked in money, and with the seller's money, we made it close, and it all went to settlement on time, and everyone walked away with either their keys or their money. But I gotta tell you, for me, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. It was so close to settlement. Issues were brought up that should not have been brought up. Other issues were brought up that were legit, but it all got mixed together, and it just left a really bad feeling in my stomach. And like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I very rarely have these negative experiences. So the lesson that I learned from this transaction is that in the future, I will tell all of my sellers this story. So if buyers and their agents ask for access and it's not contractually agreed upon, the sellers will pause most likely before giving them access, because look what happens. And this could happen to you guys too. As a buyer, if you think you're gonna wanna have access, you think you're gonna wanna measure or bring contractors in, put it in the contract so you know you can do it. And sellers, take this story as a cautionary tale of what could happen when buyers start getting in there and looking around and maybe looking under carpet and looking here and looking there, because anything can happen in a real estate transaction. So comment below and tell me what you think. If you were the buyer or the seller, what you would have done. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you agree with how we handled it? Let me know. I really do want to know. And by the way, if you are thinking about selling a home that is an older home, check out our video on the best updates to sell an older home without breaking the bank, because there's some really good tips in there. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Bye.